let's talk about assignment 2. So assignment 2 is the first of several assignments that they all build on each other, right? And together they build an application all the way through the semester. Okay. This first one is tries to mimic a little bit what happens in industry as the very first thing when you start working on any project, and usually you get tasked for implementing some kind of prototype. A very simple prototype to just play out with some of the ideas that the requirements folks, the business analysts, and the stakeholders are thinking about, right? And you're tasked with implementing a very simple prototype for them to be able to see if the navigation makes sense, right? If the organization makes sense, if they want to move certain things around from one page to another page, or move the buttons around, and so we want to make it simple enough that there's no real implementation, there's no guts behind it. It's all just front end, right? So that we can quickly move things around with very little impact on the actual implementation. Okay. So this first assignment asks you to build a fair amount of the front end of the application that we're going to be working on throughout the semester, right? So you create the landing page, the login, registration, profile page, and some of the first couple of pages that we'll need throughout. Okay, but it'll be all static, right? All just plain old HTML, just plain old CSS, very little JavaScript, or maybe no JavaScript. That's up to you. But JavaScript is not required for this first assignment, but some of you might choose to start playing with that. The idea is to get familiar with the concept of responsive design, right? That it's a mobile first. The philosophy is that we're going to first target mobile small screens, and as we consider bigger screens, we'll add additional things as screens become larger. Okay. Also, we can talk about how to lay out pages, how to make sure we use good white spaces, that things are flush, that things are aligned, that we use good strong typing on the data types that we're collecting. Quite a bit of material that we need to cover. Also, give us a chance to make sure that we're all on the same page. I know probably half of the class will be bored, and probably half of the class is going to say that I'm going too fast, and that's perfect. Well, if I'm going to try and just walk that right in the middle of that, where some of you might already be familiar with HTML and CSS and have done JavaScript, and perhaps some of you not so much, right? So I just want to make sure that I bring everybody on board. Make sure, even those that have done quite a bit, I hope that I'm sure there'll be a lot of gaps here and there that I hope to be able to cover and give some context, right, and some best practices on how to use what you might already know. Okay. All right. So here's a very short use case analysis that it's somewhat what I would expect from you. I forget if it's the first or second, if it's the end of this week or the end of next week, I forget. I would expect that you do some use case analysis on what are the type of users and what can they do? What can those types of users do, right? So as I was mentioning earlier, this is a website that allows you to build websites, right? So a developer, well, certainly there are two types of developers, right? There are two types of people. One is the person who creates the website, right? So we have to create all the user interfaces for somebody to be able to create a website. And once you deploy your website, there will be an end user that consumes that website or uses that website, right? So somebody might create a form, and then there might be an end user who might fill out that form, right, and generate all sorts of data. Yes. So there's different two types of users. I'm going to cover just one of the users here, and depending on where they are in the application, they might be able to do certain things. So certainly, they should be able to register. They should be able to log in. They should be able to view and update their profile, log out. And then these are other things that the user could do, right? The developer could do. They can view the list of websites that they've created so far. They can create a brand new website. They can change maybe the name of the website. They can remove a website. Right? So these are all use cases, right? Now for each one of them, if this were a true use case, each one of them would have a description, a high-level story on how would a user actually create a website, right? Maybe some detailed steps on what buttons would they click, right, to accomplish that. Yes, we're not gonna ask you that kind of detail, but at least come up with some high-level use cases like this. This is gonna drive the user interface, right? This is gonna drive the requirements of what it is that you're building, right? Because for each sentence here, there has to be some user interface, widget or something that allows me to do that, right? So if you put in a use case and it's not in the user interface, it says, well, how can you accomplish that if it's not in the user interface, or vice versa, right? So other things, once you create a website, you can also, a developer can create pages. They can see all the pages for a particular website. They can add a page to a website. They can update the name of a page. They can remove a page. They can change the URL, all sorts of things about a page. And for each page can contain maybe several widgets, right? A page might contain YouTube videos and images and headers and all sorts of things, raw HTML, all sorts of widgets that you can drag and drop and move them around the page, yes? So you can view the list of the widgets. You can add a brand new widget. You can reorder the widget around, move it around. You can update a widget. You can delete a widget. So these are the list of use cases for our application. I would expect that you would have use cases for your application, whatever you choose, right? And then you're going to list them as one of the in your wiki, right? Remember, I'm asking you every week, right, to create a new wiki page documenting your progress, through your project. So I would expect something like this. Also, I would expect, I think not by the end of this week, by the end of next week, some kind of data model that describes all the different types of objects or all the different types of pieces of information that you're capturing. So for notice that I grouped my use cases. I grouped them by domain objects. Right? Notice that there are a couple of domain objects here, right? So certainly we have the user, the developer, right? We need to capture information about them, right? The username, password, first name, last name, email, all sorts of private information, identifiable information. There's also websites. Those are also part of my domain objects. And so a website is kind of like an organizing mechanism that allows you to organize pages into websites, right? A website is made up of a whole bunch of pages, right? And a page is a collection of widgets, yes? Right? So those are all domain objects, right? A website is a domain object, a page is a domain object, a widget is a domain object, right? And for your project, you need to come up at least with 2 domain objects, okay? And there needs to be a one-to-many relationship between these two, right? So I certainly have it, right? I have a one-to-many between a user and a website. So one user can have many websites. One website can have many pages. One page can have many widgets. Okay. So here's a data model, and so each one of these boxes represents kind of like a class. So we have here a high-level person class of which we are inheriting. We have special cases of that person. So here we have all the common attributes of all people or all humans, and then you have specific attributes for a developer or a user. There's an error here. This should be. Website should come from a developer, so a developer has many websites, right? So this means there's a one-to-many, and there's a one-to-many here, but really should be a developer to website, not person to website. So one developer has many websites. One website has many pages. Right? This is what this says, right? One website, many pages. One page has many widgets. And then there are different types of widgets, right? This is the common area where you can have any number of attributes for all widgets. Maybe the positioning on the screen, their width, their height, right? Maybe a name for that widget, okay? Maybe a description for the widget, high-level description. And then you have many different types of widgets that inherit attributes from the base widget, and then you have header widgets, label widgets, paragraphs, text. You can have images, videos, all sorts of types of widgets that you can drag onto the page. Yes, right. Ignore this part down here. This is a diagram from a bigger project, right? Of which we're only building a piece of it. So these are wireframes. So wireframes is a usually there would be a team that either the client contracts out, right? Somebody who is well versed on creating user interfaces, and they come up with a couple of images of what these pages might look like. Okay, so here they are. These are some screenshots of what the pages might look like. Notice that I am showing them in portrait mode, right? But they should also be viewable on landscape, right? Using Bootstrap, that's very easy to do, and we'll show that later today. So we have a login page, a register page, and a profile page. These are all pages that are manipulating the user object. Okay, being able to create a user, being able to view a user or update a user, right? Being able to find an existing user. So all those are CRUD operations on the user. And depending on the domain object, you'll have different pages to handle. Eventually, we'll also add here in the login page Facebook and or Google, so you can get in without having to register. And it'll go off to Google and retrieve your Google ID and information. The profile page, when you click on the login and it's successful, it drops you on the profile page. Or if you register and it's successful, you go to the profile page. If you cancel from the registration, you go back to the login page. Or if you log out, you go back to the login page. Right? Now, for this assignment number 2, none of this will actually happen, right? We're not going to actually register anybody. We're never actually going to log in anybody, right? It's all going to be navigation, right? It's all going to be hard-coded. No dynamic content here. Right? We don't have a database. We don't have a network. We can't go fetch any data, so we can't really fetch a user and validate that this user exists because it's all fake, okay? Again, the point of this first exercise is to get us going with HTML, CSS, navigation, responsive design, right, and good look and feel and whatnot. Okay, in the profile page, eventually, you'll be able to update the profile. Right now, all these notice this, none of these input fields are filled in for the login and the registration, right? They're not filled in, but notice that they have a placeholder, right, that gives you a hint on what is it that you want folks to type in there. Yes, so that's a good practice. You should always provide a hint or a tooltip to the user for some hint of what is that you want them to type in those input fields. Yes.
Are those placeholders in place of those titles you have on the right, or would they be you have both?
I would prefer that you have labels in there. I didn't add them, so they're optional. But I would prefer that they're there.
The titles.
That the labels are there. Yes. Yeah, because you might be typing, and once you start typing, the tooltip goes away. So you said, what am I have to type here? All right, and so you have to go back to give you an idea. So yeah, it's a good practice to give both the tooltip and a label. So here, notice that these are filled in, right? They have values. These values will eventually come from a server, right, from a database. Having looked up the person, if that person exists, you populate the form. So in this case, we'll have the placeholders, and we'll provide a default text, piece of text, right? Because eventually this will be filled in, yes? Right, eventually. For now, hard code these values in there. They don't have to be my username, doesn't have to be my email. Use whatever you want. Right? Also, the color scheme, it doesn't have to be this color scheme. All right? You can choose your own color scheme as long as you choose something that has enough contrast that we can view it. Right? Don't choose colors that make it hard to read. So it doesn't have to look this way. It doesn't have to be blue. It doesn't have to be red. You can use your own color scheme. Notice that the input fields take up the entire width of the phone. Yes. Notice that there's equal size margins on both ends. So there's equal white spacing between all the fields. Yes. So look out for those things, right? All that is going to be in the rubric, right? We're gonna all those have points. Make sure that you use good white spacing. Things are nicely and aligned, right? These are all nice and flush. Okay. So make sure you have all that. Also notice that the profile title, right, is also flush with everything else. Notice that the check mark is also flush with everything on the right hand side. Okay. So look for nice the human eye captures any irregularities, right, and it's a distraction. So if everything's nice and clean, it's much easier for the eye to parse. Okay, and that's what we're looking for. Some students have suggested that when you log in, it would be better instead of coming to the profile page. Some students have suggested that it would be better instead to fall right on the list of websites, right? When you log in and you immediately see the list of all your websites. Okay, I think that's a good idea, and feel free to do that navigation instead, right? So I will accept that you log in and register and go to a profile, or if you prefer, which I think it's a good idea, fall in the list of websites instead. Okay? So in the list of websites, notice that I'm breaking a couple rules. This cog should be nice and aligned with a plus sign. It's not. Okay? But yours will be. Okay? And this should be nicely and flush of this over here. Okay? So the list of websites is going to show the list of all the websites that this person owns, right? And each person who logs in will have a different list of websites. Yes? Eventually. Right now, these are always going to be the same list of websites when you come in here, right? Because this is going to be hard-coded. It's going to be static. And this is going to be implemented in website-list.html. Okay? It's responsive. If I flip it in landscape, right, this expands. And notice that here the cogs are nice and flush. Okay? Let's see, what else? If I click on the plus sign, on either one of them, I navigate to website new HTML. Okay? Which allows me to type the name of a new website and a description. If I click on OK, it navigates me back to the list of websites where I would see the new website listed, right? But not now. That's going to be in the next assignment. Okay? Right now, when you navigate back here, it's always going to be the same form, even though it looked like you added a brand new one. Okay? This one, the website new HTML has a portrait version and a landscape version. Right? So in portrait, it just shows the form. But on landscape, it shows the form on the right-hand side, and on the left-hand side, it lists this, all the websites. Right? You can see all the list of websites. If you say OK, it closes this, and it just goes back here, right, to the list of websites. One thing that some students have suggested, and I think it's a great idea, is that on landscape, you have more space here. So you could show more things, right? You could show, maybe the number of pages. You could show last time it was accessed, right? You can show maybe the number of visits, right, for that particular website. So that's a great idea. So I'll add those requirements in there. So it'll be at least one more column. Right? Maybe last updated or last, all hard-coded, mind you, right? All hard-coded. But in this, it will show only, on portrait, it will show only one column. But on landscape, it will show 2 or 3 columns. Make sense? All right? So the bigger the page, right, the more information you can show. All right. Okay, so if instead of clicking on plus here or here, I click on the cog, right? The cog is kind of like, I want to edit it, right? I want to change something. It navigates not to website new, but to website edit page, right? And website edit looks exactly the same as website new, with the difference that website new, the input fields are empty, right? Because it's a brand new website, I'm going to type in new data, as opposed to website edit is going to show some information in there, right? A title or name, and then a description. These are all hard coded, right? And it doesn't have to be my text. You can add your own text. Doesn't matter. So eventually, this is going to be retrieving data from the server, right? It's going to say, okay, well, you're editing this particular website that already exists. Let me go fetch that from the database, right? I'm going to retrieve it and populate this form. Yes? Okay. You have a question? Ma'am? Hello? You have a question? And so this one also has a portrait version and a landscape version. Okay? That's the same thing, right? In portrait, it only shows the form. But on landscape, it shows the forms on the right-hand side and the list of websites on the left. Yes?
So when the user retrieves the information, the UI should be different, right?
Yes, the UI will be different. Well, not for this assignment. For this one, it's all static. But eventually, right, for instance, when we do the assignment for next week, the left-hand side, as you click different cogs, right, the right-hand side will change. Right? It'll go and fetch the data for that particular website. It'll show the data on the right-hand side as you click on different edit. Make sense? When you do OK, it always navigates back to the list. Right? It always goes back to the list. So if you're in the list and you go anywhere, like the edit or the new, when you say OK or delete, right, it always comes back to the list. All right? All right. So from anywhere, notice that we have a button at the bottom that is has a silhouette with the intention that if you from anywhere you can click on it and navigate back to the profile page. Okay, it takes you back to the profile from anywhere in the website. Again, some students have suggested that instead or in addition, there should be a home button. That if you click on that home button, it takes you to a home page, which is not listed here. It's not shown here. So again, some students have suggested that there should be a home page, a landing page, right, where you land, and from there you can see some meta information about the site, some explanation, and from there you can, if you want, try to log in or register. So I'm going to add a home page to this. I thought that was a very good idea. If you click on any website, you've noticed that all the websites are links, right? If you click on a website, you navigate to the list of pages for that website. Okay, all the pages in that website that lists all the names of the websites. Right, notice that it's is properly titled, right, and has a plus to be able to add a new website or to be able to edit that website or to navigate to that particular page and view all the widgets on that page. Okay. Also notice that the color scheme is different. Okay. It doesn't have to be. You can choose your own color scheme. You can use the same blue all throughout, the same green, the same red, whatever color scheme you choose. Okay. Some students suggest that different colors for different sections is a good way to have the user know where they are, right? And what domain object are they currently manipulating? That's optional. It's up to you if you want to do that. Okay. I'm not going to grade that part. You do have to be consistent, right? Don't just be rainbows all over the place. So stick to a consistent look and feel. Don't change the font for every single page. Be consistent all throughout, please. Right. Also, good contrast. Make sure that whatever color scheme you choose, it's easy to read the text on top of whatever color you choose. Also notice that this follows more or less the same exact layout as the website part, right? On the website, it was a list of websites and then new website or edit website. Yes? This is going to be the same thing. It's going to be a list of pages and then be able to create a new page and be able to edit an existing page. Yes? Okay? So same thing. If you click on cog, it goes to the edit page. If you click on plus, it goes to the new page. And when you say OK, it navigates back to the list. When you say OK or delete or cancel, it navigates back to the list. Yes? Also notice here that I've only given here the portrait version. I've given the portrait version only, but it is implied that we also want the landscape version. And the landscape version should follow the same idea for the website. Meaning that on the page new and the page edit, on landscape, the left-hand side should show the list of pages. So on the page edit also, on the left-hand side, it should show the list of all the pages. Make sense? All right. All right, so when you click on a particular page, it navigates to the list of all the widgets on that page. And for each page, there will be a different set of widgets. Right? Eventually. For now, it's always the same widgets, no matter what page you go into. Right? Because again, we don't have dynamic content here. Right? We don't have access to the server. We don't have access to a database yet. Right? So it's all static. So here, widget list always shows the same widgets and shows different types of widgets. Here's a heading widget, a smaller heading widget, an image widget, a raw HTML widget that contains styling and links and things like that. You have another heading widget, a header widget. Then we have an embedded YouTube video widget. And again, you have a raw HTML widget. Okay? Notice that each widget has like a toolbar. Right? Each widget has a toolbar. One of the tools in that toolbar eventually will allow you to drag this widget around the page and reposition it elsewhere on the page. Right? And we'll do that next week. That's we need jQuery for that. Right? For now, we'll just create the toolbar. Right? And it'll be a done toolbar, doesn't do anything, right? But it looks good. And they'll have also will have a cog that's going to work, right? If we click on the cog, it's going to navigate you to an edit page for that type of widget. For this first assignment, we're going to work on just 3 types of widgets, right? The heading widget, right? These 2 types, the image widget, and the video widget. Right? Later on, we'll add other widgets. Right? We'll add raw HTML widget. We'll add form widgets like input fields, date pickers, and things like that. You can create on the page forms. We'll talk about other widgets. Notice that the toolbar shows on top of the widget. Right? Notice that the content, right? Notice that it is below the tooltip. See that? Notice that this content shows below. Notice that it goes underneath. See that? So this is sitting on top of the content, right? What else? Also, you don't see it, but it has a very little transparency that you can see through. So you can see through the content. So you can see a little bit of that image, but there's not enough contrast to see that. Let's see what else. The content here, yes.
Shouldn't they push away the text because now you can see what's underneath?
Well, this is meant for a preview of what the page might look like. Obviously, when you deploy this, the tooltip doesn't show. The tool doesn't show, right? So it's almost like a WYSIWYG editor. So this is what it would look like. Later on, even though it's not required, a nice thing to do is that the toolbar only shows up when you hover over the widget, right? Otherwise, the toolbar should not show, right? It's not required, but that's a nice thing for you to play around with and learn how to do that. What else? Right now, we're not going to implement the dragging and dropping this around. We'll do that a little later. We need jQuery for that. But if you want to start playing around with that, install jQuery and try to play around. It's pretty easy. So if you click on plus, it navigates to a widget chooser that shows all the widgets that you can add. And there could be a very long list of widgets here. And instead of a list like this, text list, a nice thing would be that these are images, right, that represent what type of widget it is. That'd be nice. It's not required. For now, just a list like this is fine. If you click on the header widget, then it navigates to a widget heading.html. If you click on the image widget, it navigates to an editor for the image. This one, widget image. If you click on YouTube, it navigates to the widget YouTube editor. And each editor is a little bit different. They have some common things such as the name, the text. That's common through all widgets. But some of the other widgets have specific attributes such as the widget heading has a drop-down. This is a drop-down, not an input field. It's a drop-down. Okay, and you can have a drop-down of the size of the heading, values 1 through 6. Right, there's 6 sizes for the heading, so you can choose the size of the heading. Notice that this content, you don't have to use this content. You can choose whatever content you want, right? Whatever image you want, whatever video you want. Just make sure to keep it clean, right? Also, the widget image is a little bit different from YouTube widget. They both have names. They both have text. They both have URLs. They both have widths. The image widget has an additional field that is a file input field. If you click on it, it opens up a file browser. Right? It allows you to browse to the file that you want to upload. The image widget has an upload button that eventually will allow you to upload the image. Okay? Not for this assignment, right? But the form has to be there, right? The fields have to be there. Okay? Notice that all throughout the look and feel is consistent, right? That everything is aligned, that these gutters have the same widths, the same margins, the same spacing between the text and the fields. Okay? Same alignment. Please follow the same in the assignment, obviously, but for the project as well. Right? We're going to be looking for those things in the project. Right? That things are nicely aligned, that things are flush. Right? Notice that none of our content is flush with the edge of the window, right, that you have You have some white space, some 15 pixels between here. Again, the eye makes it easier to pick out different different shapes when you have all these white spaces. All right. Let's see what else. These last ones do not have a portrait and a landscape version. Right? They look the same in both cases. Okay. Let's see what else. Here's a page flow diagram of the website, okay, which is basically what we just talked about, all the navigation, with the added detail that there will be a home page here. There will be a landing page, which is not shown in the diagram. I will update the diagram. I will add a home page right here as our entry point. From that home page, we can navigate either to the login or the register page. Yes? In your project, your home page for the project is meant to show that there's activity in your project. So you might list there the latest person who has joined, or the latest article that somebody posted, the latest movie that somebody liked, whatever, the latest book that somebody read. Okay, so in your homepage, you'll show activity, so that something is happening in your website. Yes, right. So same thing here, right? In our homepage, we're going to list the latest, the latest person who registered, maybe the latest website that somebody created, or the latest page that somebody posted. Okay, all right. But it's not shown here. I'll add it. This navigation, so this diagram just captures exactly what we just mentioned, right? From the login, I can go to the register I can go to a profile. Again, some of the students are suggesting that it would be better to land here, from the home page. Once I log in, it's better to just come here, the list of websites, instead of the profile. I'll accept either one. Either implementation is fine. And so this just captures the navigation. Everybody okay? I would expect something like this for your project, right? Some kind of documentation that shows your design and how you're going to navigate through this. This is the same thing captured in tabular format. I'm not going to go over that. Styling. For this assignment, you need to use one of the standard or well-accepted CSS libraries, grid libraries, which include Bootstrap or Material Design or Foundation. And those are very well accepted libraries, and so you need to use one of those. Make sure that the input fields are strongly typed. So if it's a password, then use the type password input field. If it's an email, then use an email type field. If it's a date, use a date field. Text area should be at least 3 rows high. The file input field should be of type file. That will allow you to browse the files. Some of the input fields have some default text. Make sure you have some default text. It doesn't have to be my text. It could be your text, right? But it needs to have some default text. All the fields, if you're using Bootstrap, most of the fields will use form control. If you're using Angular materials or foundations, you can use the equivalent. Basically, it expands the field to take up the entire width of the page, which looks really nice on a phone or a tablet. All fields typically use placeholders like the tooltip text. Also, all buttons and links should look as such, right? Either a link or button, right? If they're meant to be clicked, it should be clear that they are clickable, right? Tables, you must style the tables. Use only tables for tabular data. Do not use tables for laying out pages, right? That's a bad practice. And if you're using tables, the table should be responsive, right? If the table is too big for the phone, right, to show, the table should be scrollable. You should be able to scroll the table without scrolling the entire page, right? Only the table should be scrollable. Same thing for images. If the images are too big, the image should be scrollable, right? But only the image, not the rest of the page. If it's intentional, it shouldn't be an error. It shouldn't be a mistake. It says, ooh, what? Scroll bars should only show up when they're intended to show up, right? Not as a not because you forgot, right? All links should be styled with shades, with a shade of or some underline or with hovering. Use Bootstrap glyphicons, so those images here. So images such as these icons and these check marks and these chevrons, right? Make use of those images, cogs. You can use Bootstrap glyphicons, or you can use Font Awesome glyphicons. Make good use of white spaces. We're going to disable pinch and zoom, right? There's no need for pinch and zoom if your application is already responsive, right? So we're going to disable that. Make sure that you don't have unintended horizontal scroll bars, right? You should at most have just a vertical scroll bar, right? There shouldn't be any need for the horizontal scroll bars. Again, unless it's a table or an image where it's makes sense. Some of the content, such as the header and the footer, these headers and these footers, they're going to be static. So as you scroll, right, they're going to be static. They're not going to move, right? They're going to stay in place. So you have to make sure that works well, right? For instance, one of the things I'm going to find out is that if you stick these and they don't move around, the whole content is going to want to go underneath. Right? It's going to go so we need to compensate for that, and we'll show you in a minute how to do that. Let's see. All the CSS and JavaScript libraries, they should be declared in the body, at the bottom of the body, for improving download times. All content, CSS or JavaScript contents, they should be in their appropriate CSS or JavaScript or JS directories. And what else? For deliverable, yes.
So, are you saying that we should reference a local copy and not have it on the website?
These are your own styles and your own app.js. And I'm okay with you using local Bootstrap and local Angular, especially in the development environment. For your project, once you deploy it, once you're done and you're going to submit it, you're going to replace them with CDNs. When you're done development, right? You're going to replace all your CSS and all your JavaScript libraries to point to CDNs instead. Okay? But for development, it's okay, right, to have local copies. Where was I? So deliverables, basically you're going to commit everything and you're going to deploy it on Heroku and you're going to release it as assignment 2. I see that most of you, I don't think we had an issue with the tagging and creating the release for assignment 1, right? I think most of you are okay with that. So you'll tag it with assignment 2. If you need to change something, you can resubmit with 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, right? If you forgot something. For Blackboard, please submit the GitHub repository and the online website URL. Yes? Any questions?
How to transfer the Kotlin version to the landscape?
We'll do that in class. We'll do that together. Yes. Yes.
Is there any format for the version of releases?
I'm sorry, format for what?
So if I have 3 releases for assignment 1, should I say assignment 1 for?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, so it'll be, if it's 2, then it'll be 2.1, 2.2, 2.3. We're gonna grade the last one, right? We're gonna ignore all the other ones, right? We're just gonna grade the very last one that you tag. That's fine. Doesn't matter. Yeah, as long as it's understood. I've understood that this is the last one. right? We won't grade until it is released. All right, and the timestamp. We're not going to go with the timestamp we're not going to go with the timestamp for in Blackboard. We're going to go with the timestamp of the tag of the release, right? So whatever you released it, if you released it Sunday at 10, which is well within the time frame, and you forgot to submit it on Blackboard, and you submitted the next morning, it's okay, right? We don't really care about the time in Blackboard. We care about the time that you released it on GitHub. Okay. All right. Let's